Hi, my name is David Bloomer, and I'm fascinated that Bahrain television should think I'm interesting enough to do a piece on. I came to Bahrain originally for 2 years, and that was back in 1983. This is 2023, so I've been here quite a long time. It took me a little while to get settled in, not very long, and I think I explained that I found the people here to be very friendly. I'd planned on maybe spending 2 or 3 years here, but as the time went by and I got to know more and more people and know more and more about the life here in the Kingdom of Bahrain and the quality of life in the Kingdom of Bahrain, I liked it more and more. I'll stay another couple of years, and then I think, as I said, I was granted Bahraini citizenship by His Majesty some years back, and I don't see myself leaving here anytime soon. We're here now in what Vanessa and I like to refer to as our museum. This is a spare room within the house, and we didn't know what to do with it. We've collected all these various different items, memorabilia from our many trips around the world, and we seemed like a great place to put it. And we've got Vanessa up here, myself in Papua New Guinea in the business lounge, waiting to go flying in a very small aircraft. We had to go around in the jungle. There were no roads in most of Papua New Guinea, so we had to either go by boat or by aircraft. And with the aircraft, we used to land into these small airfields in the middle of the jungle. They were just clearings, like you'd see in maybe a National Geographic movie. And in some of them, we had to help refuel the plane to go on for the next place. So we've liked to travel. I think I said that earlier on. We've been spending a lot of time around the place. We also like sport, and you can see here behind me Bahrain International Circuit, of course the home of motorsport in the Middle East. I've been associated there for many years, right from the start, even before the place was built. I was there when His Royal Highness Prince Salman turned the first shovel in the ground to start the building. And I've been going there ever since. And each year at the Grand Prix, the media section at BIC give out a plaque, a number plate, same as you'd have in your car, except it marks the occasion of the Grand Prix and the date for that year. So that's what they are all about there. Hanging up in the window, I've got all these accreditation badges that I've collected over the years. When you go to these places as media, you have to be accredited, and you get a badge with your name and all that kind of stuff on it, and a lanyard. And one of the things, of course, that I'm very proud of here is the chances I had an opportunity to speak to His Majesty the King. That was down at the Endurance Village. And I think I said that before, that His Majesty is very approachable by everybody. He's very friendly with everybody. I think he's got this unique talent for making everybody feel that at that moment in time, they are the most important person there. Of course, Vanessa spent 38 years working for Gulf Air, and she still, of course, has a liking for aircraft. And I think there's a picture up here over my head of one of the first aircraft that she flew on. And out on the wall outside, there's a big, what they call a spirit mask. And we got that in a spirit house, these special houses in the middle of the jungle where they have all these masks and things. And but they're available. You can buy them, or they'll give them to you as a gift. And they're not very common that you see them around. So we've got one out here, a big mask, and it's got boar's tusks plus crocodile teeth. So mentioning Vanessa there and the number of years she spent in Gulf Air, we met here many years ago. We both went to a party, a farewell party for a mutual friend. And we met at that and got to know each other. And we both, as I say, have a great interest in travel and that's how we got together, and we've been very happily married for a long time now. And it's great because she loves to travel, I love to travel, and it works out well. And in fact, one of the things where we had a little bit of a discussion on travel is a rocking chair that's here in the hall. Now that comes from Costa Rica, and it is really nice, and I really liked it. And Vanessa said, oh, we have to get one of those to take home. And I thought, we'll never get there, because we were traveling around Costa Rica on minibuses and taxis, and this thing came it folded up, but it was a large box about that height. So we would be checking in with our bags and this to try and get on, and we had many discussions about that, but it did make it here, and it is a really nice piece to remind us of that. Well, when I arrived here first, I was very surprised at just how welcoming people were. It was very different to my idea of what was going to happen. I was going to be a foreigner in a foreign land, and people might not be interested in me at all, or might see me as an intruder. But I felt that people were very welcoming, and the mentality here seemed to be very similar to the way people in Ireland are. And I think that's probably down to the fact that both countries are small island nations off the coast of bigger neighbours. And the people here, like the people in Ireland, want to know about you as a person, not necessarily as a salesman. They didn't want to necessarily know about the products or service I was offering up front. They want to know about me, where I was from, how my family was, how I was settling into Bahrain. So it felt that I was immediately among friends. And I came here originally, let's say in 1983, for 2 years. It's now 2023, so it's coming up to 40 years next month. Well, I originally came out here selling computers, and the reason I came here was I'd heard that there were these countries in the Gulf where you could go and you didn't have to pay income tax. I was selling computers back home, but I was paying an awful lot of tax, and I started applying, and I came here. I couldn't believe it, but yes, I was being paid a salary, and I didn't have to pay any tax. It was great, and again, it was the friendliness of the people made it easy to get appointments to see people that you might want to try and sell a product or a service to. And as I said earlier, when you go in, people want to know a little bit about you first and talk about themselves. And of course, you always had to have tea. And it was a friendly transaction right from the start. You didn't feel that you had to go in and hustle and rush things through. You had time to spend with the people, and you built up a relationship with those people then when they became customers or clients. It was very much a personal relationship. And doing business, it wasn't easier than other places, but it was much more personal. In 1983, in fact, it was August, and as we all know, August is not the most pleasant month, but it certainly was a big change. It was very pleasant. I found that the people here were very welcoming, and I immediately found I could fit in. And people wanted to know, and they didn't want to know so much about who I was from because I was working as a salesman. They wanted to know about me as a person. And I found that very similar to the Irish mentality. People in Ireland are very similar, and maybe that's down to the fact that we're both small island countries off the coast of our bigger neighbours. And we spend more time. We want to know the person. We want to know about their family and their history, etc. And then we can get down to business. So I found it very similar in that respect. Well, I changed jobs soon after I came out here, and I started doing a lot of traveling. I was working with McDonnell Douglas. Most people know them as being the aircraft builders, but they also had a very big computer side, and I was working on the computer side. And I used to have to go up and down to Kuwait and to the UAE, and then very often I'd have to go to the headquarters in St. Louis in Missouri. So I got to travel quite a lot, which is something I really like doing. And both my wife and myself love to travel any chance we get. We like to go. We enjoy life from here in Bahrain. But Bahrain is such a central location. It's a great place for getting to see other parts of the world that wouldn't necessarily be easy accessible from places in Europe. I found getting around here was easy once I got a car. When I was being driven around at first, like all new places, it seemed confusing. And when you're not driving yourself, you're not making as much effort to memorize where you're going. But as soon as I started driving and then getting out and about, and it's very easy to find yourself out in the countryside here. There weren't the big highways that we have here now. You could be driving along a main road and see something of interest in the distance, and you could just turn off the road and drive across the country to it. And one of the big things that I made sure to get was a four-wheel drive SUV, and it could go, and it gave access to so many places. And then I got involved with a running group, the Bahrain Hash House Harriers, and they used to have a weekly run in various different places, and you would park up and go on the run. You didn't know where it was. It was a trail marked with white chalk, and it took you to places that you might never see normally, and you end up back at the car park. And it was a great way of getting to see the country, and getting around was very easy, free and easy. And the highways now are great for getting from A to B, but the bits in between are not as easy accessible, and of course a lot of them have got built up, and I suppose that's progress like anywhere else. When I go back home to my own home country, I don't recognize lots of the places because they've got built up, and new roads, new housing estates, etc. But one of the things about working here is that all opportunities are open to you. If you want to do something, you're very welcome to go ahead and do it. There's nobody going to stand in your way. If you have the proper qualifications, you can go ahead and you can change your line of work. And very early on, I started getting involved in doing some part-time television work, and then that led on to doing radio work, and I'm still doing radio and television to this day, and I've always enjoyed it. Now, if I'd stayed back home, I probably would never have got the opportunity to do that kind of thing. And by being in that business, it meant I got to speak to an awful lot of people that I wouldn't normally get to speak. I get to speak to an awful lot of the senior members of the royal family, including His Majesty and His Royal Highness Prince Salman. I would never get to talk to people at that level back home, but here I have the opportunity to do that, and it's wonderful. But being involved with the media, I get to see a lot of the cultural side of things, because I've always been invited to go and report on events, cultural and historic. So it gives me a great opportunity of getting to sample a lot of the culture. And of course, a lot of the culture here, like other countries, involves food, and particular food that is particular to this part of the world. It gives an opportunity to try it out, whereas you might go into a restaurant and not be adventurous enough to try something, but going to these events, you have the chance to try small amounts and get to see, yes, I like this, I like that, go along and enjoy the music and the dancing. And Bahraini people love to play music, and they love to play music. And of course we have all these pearl diver bands, and I've had the privilege of traveling with some of those in Europe, and these guys go down very well. But I was with some of them in Berlin, and we were waiting for the bus to take us to the airport, and we're sitting outside on a grass bank. And the guys got out their instruments and started playing away, and suddenly there was a big crowd all around cheering and clapping. And everybody was very happy, and everybody was very friendly. And these weren't just German people, these were tourists from all over the world coming and enjoying this impromptu concert in the grass in the middle of downtown Berlin. Well, there used to be a very active Irish community. It's not so active now. I think, like a lot of things, suffered during the COVID lockdown, and people were not able to go out, not able to get together. But traditionally, the Irish community have had a very strong Irish society, and they organise lots of cultural events and bring bands out from Ireland. And I had the privilege of being the chairman of the Irish Society for a number of years. And one of the biggest sporting events here at the rugby club is the Gaelic Games. That takes place always in November, when we've got Gaelic teams. Gaelic is the national sports of Ireland. There's hurling, football, and camogie, which is a female version of hurling. And they all come here, and we have hundreds of players coming from around the Gulf, because Gaelic games are quite popular in all of the other Gulf states. But everybody looks forward to coming to Bahrain. And on that occasion, the Irish Society and the Arabian Celts, which is the Gaelic team associated here, part of the rugby club, they bring in bands from Ireland, and they put on concerts here in the evening. And it's, as I say, one of the most popular events at the rugby club here, and people from around the Gulf all look forward to coming here. It's the highlight of the year on the Gaelic calendar. Yeah, well, here people accept you for what you are, and it doesn't matter what religion you are or no religion. Everybody is treated equally in this country, and there are mosques, there's a synagogue, and now there's a huge new cathedral down at Awali on land that His Majesty the King has donated to the Catholic Church. And of course we had that fantastic meeting recently when the Pope was here, and one of the senior Islamic clerics and His Majesty, and they had this dialogue between them all. And this is one of His Majesty's big things in his way of looking at life, that everybody should work harder to be together and be equal, and see that we all basically want the same things. We want to be able to have somewhere comfortable to live, to raise our family, and to be able to put enough food on the table and get on with our neighbours and socialise with our neighbours. And Bahrain is very much to the fore in that, and gives great example, not just in this part of the world, but all around the world. And I've always found that here, that people accept you for what you are and never query anything, and you're free to do your thing, or anybody else is free to do their thing, and everybody lives together very much in harmony. That is probably the start of my big travel. A friend and myself went on a safari in Morocco, out into the Sahara in Land Rovers, and we drive through the day through the desert, look at the desert sites. And people often think of deserts as being vast empty places, but there's so much to see and do in them. And we would drive, then camp, spend the night in the desert, and there's nothing like being out in the middle of a desert miles from anywhere. No light pollution, no sound of engines or anything like that, and just an oil lamp and a fire. And that gave me a love of travel and getting off the beaten track. And then the next one I went to was Morocco. From Morocco, and the next year went to Algeria and Tunisia and toured around those, again on four-wheel drives. I had a love of four-wheel drives for as long as I can remember, and in fact qualified as an off-road driving instructor at Bahrain International Circuit, and had the opportunity to take lots of people out and let them experience off-roading on the course down at BIC. Bahrain lends itself to taking part in sport, both as a spectator and as a participant, and there are so many different sports that people can take part in here. And we're in the rugby club, which is probably one of the most successful rugby clubs in the region, and it is extremely popular. And it's not just rugby, because they have other sports here as well. They've got netball, they've got cricket, they've got tennis, and of course Gaelic games is very popular here. I mentioned that earlier on, talking about the Gaelic weekend, which takes place in November. And people have the opportunity to take part in these games, and they can come, they may never have played before. Then there's the national teams, the big national soccer team. Soccer is very popular, and there are lots of soccer schools, a lot of the youngsters getting involved in those. There's athletics, and equestrian sport then is extremely popular here. Show jumping and dressage being two of the main things, I think, with the expatriates. And of course we have the endurance riding, which His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad has been very much involved in setting up. And then of course we look to things like the Brave Combat Federation has become one of the biggest sporting organisations, fastest growing in the world, and that's His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad behind that, and putting the Kingdom of Bahrain very much on the map internationally. My own very interest, apart from rugby, of course, is motorsport, and we've got BIC here, Bahrain International Circuit, which is the first of the circuits organising motorsport in a big way here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. And we've had the Formula One here since, I think it was 2004 was the first one. And we've got this weekend is the Hungarian Grand Prix, and I want to watch the qualifying for that. That'll be taking place on Saturday. The Grand Prix itself will be on Sunday. And cycling, of course, is another big one, and Bahrain Team Victorious is doing very well in this year's tour. They've won a couple of stages already. It makes great television viewing. I've been involved in all of those and had the privilege of driving from here up into Syria and Jordan and into Turkey, and doing live reports and interviews for Radio Bahrain along the way. So these are some of the things that I've had been able to do, and of course my qualification as an off-road driver came very much to fore there, because we spent quite a lot of time in Wadi Rum camping out there and driving through this fantastic wilderness. It's been used in the backdrop for so many films, including I was going to say Ben-Hur, but I can't even think of the name of the film. It's Lawrence of Arabia, of course. Why can I remember that? It was featured very much in that. And this is all here on our doorstep, and people, if they want to take part in a particular sport or try a new sport, the opportunities are here. That ball was presented to the club by a rugby club in Dublin called St Mary's College Rugby Football Club, and this is the past pupils club for the school that I attended in Dublin, and it's a place where I go to. My brother is still very much involved there, and when I'm in Dublin I go there and visit, and like all rugby clubs, it's very sociable. People are very friendly, and I meet a lot of the guys that I was in school with, and we were talking about Bahrain, and the folks there are interested in perhaps putting a team together to come out here and play a friendly tournament against Bahrain. And as a token of that friendship, when I was there the last time, the president of the club presented me with it. They just received a new consignment of rugby balls for the new season with the club stamp on them. And he thought, oh, this would be a nice idea. Why don't I will give this to you. You take that back to Bahrain and present it to the president of Bahrain Rugby Club as a token of goodwill and our intention to come and visit. So when I came back here, I then presented it to Michael Stapleton, who was the president of the club, and that's it in the glass case in reception. Over my time here, there's been very many special memories. I've managed to do so much here that I probably would never have done had I been still back home in Ireland. I mentioned earlier on about the travel and the fact that being able to travel, and both my wife and myself both like to travel. And a great thing in that is that neither of us are prone to seasickness, so we've had lots of great adventures, sailing on tall ships in the South Pacific, going to some of these very small island nations, or even smaller than Bahrain, and being very much made welcome. I think it goes back to, again, to what I was saying earlier on, Ireland and Bahrain. Island countries, people tend to have more time to devote to each other, and it's the same in these small Pacific Island nations, and it made to feel very welcome and accepted there. We've had the privilege of being in the Antarctic, and we've been landed on Antarctica, so we have both been on all 7 continents and had the opportunity to visit all of these countries that we would never have had the opportunity to visit before. So we've been from the Arctic to the Antarctic, and being involved in radio, I've managed to interview a lot of people in these countries and interview the people live from these countries. In fact, I'm wearing a Panama shirt, and been to Panama, been on the Panama Canal, and interviewed the captain of the ship that I was on live on Radio Bahrain from Panama, which was quite an achievement, something I never thought I'd be able to do, going to so many countries. So travel has been a big thing for me, and I've been able to achieve that and go to countries that I've only ever dreamed about while I've been here. And there are still some more out there that I'd like to visit. Future plans are to live as long as possible and stay as long as possible here in Bahrain, and there are a number of other countries that I would like to visit, but it'll take time to do those. We both enjoy life here in Bahrain. We've been very much our home, and we're both lucky enough and privileged enough to be granted citizenship by His Majesty. So we would look forward to continuing staying here in Bahrain and having the health and well-being to go and visit more countries. I think you've asked a lot of questions, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I would just like to say again, thank you to His Majesty, his government, and the members of the royal family, and everybody here in Bahrain for giving me the opportunity to come here and live here and have such an enjoyable life in the Kingdom of Bahrain.